Gar Alperovitz, if I look at my bookcase of books by Gar, I see first a book about the decision to drop the atomic bomb, and most recently, Another World is Possible, America Beyond Capitalism. What took you from nukes to now?
Actually, it was the other way around. I was doing a doctoral dissertation 100 years ago on how American planners were organizing the post-war world, how they designed to do it. And that was we call it globalization. But they were planning to reorganize the world to manage their system partly for peace, partly for American interests, et cetera. And I ran into the fact that nuclear weapons in 1945 were part and parcel, unexpectedly, of their decision to impose or threaten or use that. And so I have, by chance, the diaries of the Secretary of War, I wrote about that decision. So now I'm back to what I really cared about. How do you actually generate and build systematically a system that is sustainable, equitable, building an ethical society? And what are the systemic requirements? So I'm back home where I started from.
Talk a little bit about this moment that we're in. You hear a lot of politicians talking about the recession is over, growth is back. You hear a lot of environmentalists saying the last thing we need is more growth. You talk about stagnation. Is that where we're at?
Oh, I think we will get ripples, and I think we're in a ripple. But if you look at, there's effectively 20% unemployment in many parts of the country, and parts of where we're in Cleveland, Ohio, for instance, 40% unemployment in many neighborhoods. So at one level, there will be not the kind of recoveries we've known. There will be ripples, I think. But the dominant scheme now is stagnation, decay, political stalemate. Very profound problems are happening in the system. And at the superficial level of what you read on television or hear on the radio and so forth, you get this, oh, the recovery is happening. That is not what's happening in a deeper sense. I think we will, I think, dwindle on for a long time. And it's raising a lot of questions. And I think its important function is painfully asking really profound systemic questions of many people. So I think that's the context. I think it's a very unusual context, but I think that's where we are.
If the American economy could come out of the depression of the 30s into the 50s of growth, why can't this economy now similarly return to or even explode that kind of growth path?
In theory it could. Obviously, in theory it could. But if you look at what happened in the 30s, World War II injected huge funds into the system, solved the problem, destroyed our industrial competitors, Germany, Japan, Italy, the European countries, allowed for the post-war boom until they came back. And now I think we're seeing the end of that phenomenon. Military spending actually is declining to the 4% range of the GDP. It was 42% in World War II. So that prop, which is a politically viable way to spend money, worked. And it worked in the first quarter of the century as well, World War I. Not that they planned that, but that's how you solve problems. In the third quarter of the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the decay, military spending in the Cold War. That is over. I think we will see these wars, which are outrageous wars, but in terms of their economic capacity to balance the system, that I think is over. And we're not likely, fortunately, to have another industrial scale war like World War I or World War II because of military technology. Nuclear weapons makes that impossible. So I think we're in a decaying but not collapsing pattern, and it's forcing people to think and build at the local level, to rethink ideas. I think it's the most interesting period of American history, painful as it is, because it's raising systemic questions.
You talk about co-ops and cooperation, but a lot of people look at the economy of lowering expectations, rising unemployment, and see conflict ahead.
Oh yes, that there will be, and there is growing conflict. And hopefully there has to be more conflict. The top 400 people, this number just is staggering. Top 400 individuals have more wealth than the bottom 160 million Americans. It's more concentrated than even the 1% and 99%. So there's got to be conflict as the pain increases. But there also is, how do you actually transform this? So it's two questions at once, the pain, the conflict, but also both rebuilding and building the theory of the next system, or how we get beyond this.